Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this one, I'm going to be talking about why you guys shouldn't buy an M1 Mac right now, and why you guys should wait for the M1X or the M2 to come out, hopefully sometime later this year. And most of the stuff that I'm going to mention about the M1X or whatever it ends up being called is just based on leaks done from researchers who have a pretty decent track record. So as of right now, if you want to go out and buy an M1 machine, you can get the M1 MacBook Pro, the M1 MacBook Air, or the M1 Mac Mini, which in my opinion is the best Mac to go for if you really need one right now. The relatively new M1 processor from Apple has honestly shocked me and many others that I've seen from YouTube videos because of the performance that it delivers, and especially for the price. Right now I'm actually still a Windows user, and I thought my custom built PC with an Intel i5-8400 would be a good enough processor for the things that I do. And I mainly do photo and video editing, and honestly my Windows machine has been crashing all the time with whatever I use, which is basically Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Premiere Pro. And also, when I was building my custom PC around 2 years ago, I thought that Apple computers or Macs were way too expensive for what they actually delivered, but now that they've actually done really well with both their hardware and software, it really doesn't make sense for me to stick with Windows and not get a Mac. But the entire point of me making this video is so that you guys don't make the mistake of buying an M1 Mac right now, because the M1X or the M2 is going to be coming out probably sometime this year. So there's a few different leaks and rumors that have come out recently about Apple's new processor, which is going to be the M1X or the M2, a new MacBook Pro, which is going to be a new 14-inch redesign, a new iMac, and finally something like a Mac Mini Pro. First, taking a look at the new M1X or the M2 processor, it shows that it rivals some extremely powerful processors out there from Ryzen and Intel, which is honestly just crazy. And also, I don't want to be that guy that goes crazy into the numbers, the specs of everything, because there's a lot of other YouTubers out there that do that stuff a lot better than I do. But the main idea here is that the GPU and the multi-core processing speeds are going to be a lot better than the M1 processor right now. So basically, if you're doing anything with multi-core processing like photo editing or video editing, then this is going to be a great machine for you to upgrade to. So now getting into the juicy stuff, which honestly I care a lot more about, let's talk about the newly redesigned MacBook Pro 14-inch. Just looking at these leaks and renders, I'm honestly so happy that Apple is finally moving their 13-inch MacBook Pro to a 14-inch model. According to these leaks, this new MacBook Pro is going to be catered towards people who actually need a pro computer, since they're adding in some more ports and even an SD card slot, which is super convenient for anybody who does any sort of content creation. The display also might be mini LED, which is going to be a lot better than the current displays on the MacBook Pros, which are honestly already great. And the way that they plan to make the display 14 inches is probably by cutting down on the bezels and expanding their display, which is similar to what Dell did with their XPS line. Now moving on to the next leak, which is going to be the Mac Pro Mini, which there honestly isn't too much information on right now, but the main idea here is that it's going to be like the retro Mac, which is probably just going to be a few Mac Minis stacked on top of each other. And the performance is probably going to be somewhere in between a current generation Mac Mini or an iMac and a Mac Pro. And honestly, the only real reason that I would recommend for you to pick this up is if you're doing client work for a company in either photo editing or video editing or rendering or something else that needs a lot of power. And we could even see that a base model M1 Mac Mini can perform really well and edit even 8K video, which honestly shows you that you don't need a really expensive machine to get really high quality work done. So honestly, just save your money and spend the extra money that you saved on something that's actually going to speed up your workflow a lot more. Finally, something that I've been wanting to see a redesign for a really long time now was the iMac, and it's finally getting that redesign after almost a decade. The current design isn't really too bad at all right now, but after so long, I think it's time to move forward into a new design, and these leaks are getting me really excited because of how they look. Apple is finally going to trim down all those chunky bezels around the display and make it resemble their really expensive Pro Display XDR with the rumored 24-inch and 32-inch model. In my opinion, I don't think that they're going to actually make it look just as good as a Pro Display XDR, because they don't want people actually just buying the iMac instead of that. And they're probably also going to curve the sides a little bit like the current generation iPad Pro, so it doesn't actually compete with the Pro Display XDR. The leaks also show that they're bringing back some different color options, which are similar to the iPad Air's colorways. Back in the old days, the iMac G3 had a few different color options, and I'm glad that they're bringing it back so that people can get something that they really like. For me personally though, I'm really only interested in the silver and the matte black colorways, since the other colors really aren't my style, especially for a computer. So now that I've talked about all the new Macs that are probably coming out or hopefully coming out sometime this year, the only real reason that you should go pick up an M1 Mac right now is if you absolutely need one for work or something like that, or if you're just interested in an M1 Mac Mini. And since they just released them, I don't really think that Apple's going to be upgrading them in the next year or so. So if you do want to upgrade to the M1 Mac Mini from your Windows computer or another computer that you have, I would feel free to upgrade to the M1 Mac Mini. And you can actually find a few of them for sale, like the lowest model, for only $5.99 at Costco. And I was actually really close to buying that exact model from Costco, but now I'm just holding out for the M1X or the M2 models, which hopefully come out sometime this year. But I really do think that the M1 Mac Mini is insane for the performance to form factor and price. For like 80% of the people out there, I think that the base model M1 Mac Mini is actually enough, but of course we all like to spec out our machines and go for the more expensive models because it honestly just feels good to get, which I completely understand. And for me personally, I'm actually kind of confused right now on which Mac I should pick up as my first ever Mac and as my primary work machine. And my options right now are between the new MacBook Pro 14-inch and the new iMacs. And I've been spending like 99% of my time at home right now because of the whole pandemic, which is why I might go with an iMac. But soon, in like 6 to 8 months, I'm actually going to be starting a new job in New York City, so it might actually make more sense for me to get a MacBook Pro. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video, and if you guys have any recommendations on which Mac I should get, be sure to leave it in the comments below. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.